In this school, students are playing a poker game, which is more known for its gambling activities than its academics. Confident in his cards, Ryota raises 10 chips, which are worth 100,000 yen. With a mix of fear and confidence, he puts his cards on the table and announces that he has a full house. At first, his opponent, Miri, is shocked. Then she confidently throws her royal straight flush on the table, claiming victory. Since Ryota cannot pay back 100,000 yen, he will now be her doggy, following all her instructions. According to school rules, he has to remain Miri's doggy until he pays back the money he owes her. Meanwhile, a new girl named Yumiko Jabami joins their school Hayakao Private Academy. Founded 122 years ago, it attracts children of political and financial elites. At first glance, it appears like any other prestigious institution. However, this school has a unique tradition: gambling. Here, academic grades and athletics hold no importance. The school operates under a hierarchical structure where the student council oversees all gambling activities, and students pay their fees to them. Those who do not comply are labeled as house pets, either doggy or kitten, if they break important rules or fail to pay their fees. Once designated as a house pet, the only way out is to settle their debts. Since Ryota cannot pay back Miri, he is treated like a doggy by her. Amidst the chaos of the private academy, new student Yumiko enters the classroom and introduces herself to the class. Everyone is impressed by her beauty, much to Miri's annoyance. As the class monitor, Ryota is tasked with showing Yumiko around the academy. Annoyed that Yumiko is stealing the spotlight, Miri challenges her to a gambling match. Hearing this, Ryota panics, fearing that Yumiko may not know the basics of gambling since she's new. However, to his surprise, Yumiko accepts the challenge. They will be playing a card game called Rock Paper Scissors, which was invented by their class. Each of the 30 students will draw either a rock, paper, or scissors on a card. To ensure secrecy, the cards will be placed in a box where opponents cannot see them. Then, each player will draw 3 cards from the box and choose one card to play against each other. If there is a tie, they will play again. If all 3 rounds end in ties, then the game is a draw. Each player will receive 120 chips, and each chip is worth 10,000 yen, totaling 1.2 million yen. The first round begins, and Yumiko bets 2 chips. Soon, they reveal their cards, Yumiko with a rock and Miri with scissors. Rock beats scissors, so Yumiko wins the round and earns 4 chips. In the next round, Yumiko surprises everyone by raising 50 chips worth 500,000 yen. Miri eagerly matches the raise with the same amount of coins. The game starts, and this time, Miri wins by smashing Yumiko's scissors with her rock, taking the pot of 1 million yen. Round 3 starts with Yumiko raising 2 chips and easily winning with her paper. In the following round, she raises 50 chips again, wearing a strange satisfied smile. The cards are played, and once more, Miri wins with her paper against Yumiko's rock. On her very first day, Yumiko loses a total of 1 million yen. Miri continues to win until Yumiko runs out of chips. Instead of giving up, Yumiko asks Miri if she can borrow chips for the next game. Upon hearing this, Miri bursts with joy and reveals her cheating strategy in the game. It turns out that 21 out of the 30 classmates vote according to her instructions. This is because they owe her money to settle debts or as donations. She instructs her followers to place 11 rocks and 10 scissors in the box. This ensures that if the remaining students vote, there will be fewer papers. Therefore, as long as Miri plays rock, she cannot lose. Back in the game, Miri is ecstatic when Yumiko asks to borrow 1,000 chips worth 10 million yen. To demonstrate she can repay, Yumiko casually pulls out 10 million yen from her bag, shocking everyone, including Miri, who calls Yumiko insane. Yumiko counters that insanity is at the heart of gambling, believing the crazier the bet, the better. Miri eagerly accepts, confident she will win no matter what. However, her joy turns to dismay when Yumiko addresses the class, revealing that they are all unwittingly helping Miri win. Much to everyone's disbelief, Yumiko exposes their strategy, detailing how in the round with the 500,000 yen bet, Miri had 2 rocks and then 2 papers, winning both times by playing the same card consecutively. This raised Yumiko's suspicions about cheating. When the bets were small, Miri was comfortable with mixed hands, resulting in her losing both times when only 2 chips were raised. Miri denies any cheating, but Yumiko warns her sternly, telling her not to blame anyone but herself if things go wrong. Having 2 rocks and 1 pair of scissors, Miri confidently plays rock, expecting to win. However, Yumiko surprises her by playing paper. As a result, Yumiko wins 10 million yen, leaving Miri speechless. Subtracting the previous debt of 1.2 million yen owed by Yumiko to Miri, Miri now owes Yumiko 8.8 million yen, which she obviously doesn't have. The prospect of becoming Yumiko's kitty leaves her utterly shocked and distressed. After the match, Ryota approaches Yumiko in the hallway and asks why she played paper back there. Yumiko explains that she quickly realized Miri was manipulating the votes. All she had to do was deduce which card Miri instructed everyone to vote for. She did not see any signals from Miri, and she suspected someone else was signaling the students. When she observed her surroundings, she noticed everyone's attention was on Ryota. To see what he was signaling, she used her compact mirror and caught Ryota in the act. That's how she knew which cards Miri would play and how to defeat her. Ryota apologizes to Yumiko for being part of the cheating, explaining he owed Miri. Upon hearing this, Yumiko gives him 1,000,000 yen so he can repay Miri and free himself from being a doggy. Ryota expresses his gratitude to Yumiko for her generosity but remains puzzled about how she managed to draw a paper card in the last round. Given there were only 2 or 3 such cards in the box, he is deeply shocked to learn that Yumiko relied purely on luck for such a high-stakes bet. It dawns on him that Yumiko was not just an ordinary girl but a complete gambling enthusiast and a compulsive gambler. The next day, Yumiko approaches Ryota, who appears visibly shaken. When he addresses her by her last name, Yumiko insists they are friends now and encourages him to use her first name. Ryota informs her he has paid 1,000,000 yen to the student council, thus ending his status as a doggy. He promises Yumiko that he will repay her as soon as possible, but Yumiko surprises him by saying the money was a gift and that she doesn't want it back. Meanwhile, Miri is consumed with thoughts of repaying Yumiko before the rankings are updated. If she fails to do so in time, she will be forced to become Yumiko's house pet. On the other hand, Ryota reveals to Yumiko that the school rules haven't always been so strict. Everything changed 2 years ago when the current president took control of the student council. Despite being a first-year student, she challenged the former president to a gambling match for the presidency and won. After taking office, she introduced several reforms, including the donation rankings and the house pet system. Since then, the student environment has worsened. Instead of being upset by this revelation, Yumiko was thrilled, finding the academy's life incredibly interesting and exciting. Just then, she is approached by Itsuki Sumireji, a member of the student council, who challenges her to a match. Without hesitation, Yumiko eagerly accepts the challenge. Ryota expresses concern for Yumiko because Itsuki has never lost in a card game. Moreover, Itsuki holds the top spot in the donation rankings, having secured her place on the student council as a first year through substantial donations. Adding to her advantages, she is the daughter of a prominent toy company CEO, making her extremely wealthy. Despite knowing Itsuki's strengths, Yumiko refuses to back down. Itsuki then introduces Yumiko to the game called Double Concentration. Unlike normal concentration, where players match numbers, double concentration requires matching both numbers and suits. There are a total of 104 cards, each with only one matching pair. Knowing that Yumiko raised 10,000,000 yen while playing against Miri, Itsuki proposes to make the game more thrilling by introducing council-issued chips. There are 20 chips in total, each worth 1,000,000 yen. Itsuki declares that she will raise the stakes to 20,000,000 yen for their upcoming game. When asked if she's willing to double up, Yumiko admits she doesn't have 20,000,000 yen on hand. Itsuki offers to lend her the money without any interest charged. Yumiko enthusiastically agrees, accepting the challenge and matching the raise with 20,000,000 yen. Ryota attempts to caution Yumiko against this risky move, but she advises him to relax and have faith in people. Soon, the game begins, and Itsuki lays out the 104 cards evenly on the table. Before starting, she takes the opportunity to promote her company's products, including the deck of cards she is using. The players take turns flipping over cards, attempting to find matching pairs. Both Itsuki and Yumiko show impressive memory skills, quickly memorizing the locations of cards they uncover, which helps them match pairs efficiently. Initially, Yumiko takes the lead in the game with 4 points. However, Itsuki stages a comeback and, in a single turn, matches all the remaining cards, securing her victory. Itsuki celebrates jubilantly while Ryota collapses in despair, realizing the trouble Yumiko has gotten herself into. After losing the game, Yumiko insists on a rematch with Itsuki. Unable to pay the 20,000,000 yen, she hopes to win it back in another game. Itsuki, however, showcases her collection of nail art, boasting that each nail is real. She proposes that if Yumiko wants a rematch, she must wager her own nails. To everyone's astonishment, Yumiko boldly agrees to bet her nails against Itsuki's 20,000,000 yen rate. While the rematch unfolds in the hall below, Sayaka, the secretary of the student council, watches the proceedings from above, observing the intense game between the two opponents. On the other hand, Itsuki is ecstatic about the rematch, confident that she cannot lose. She reveals to us her cheating strategy for the game. She already knows the locations of half of the cards. While they appear ordinary at first, these cards are specially designed for gambling. When exposed to a specific temperature, special markings become visible. Itsuki has an electric heater in her trunk that helps reveal these markings, which last for a brief 2 to 3 minutes after the cards are laid out. They are subtle and disappear completely without a trace. All Itsuki needs to do is memorize them all, which isn't quite that easy. Before the next match begins, Yumiko confronts Itsuki, warning her that if she's willing to risk her family's prestigious business, she must be ready for the consequences. Itsuki initially fails to grasp Yumiko's implication until Yumiko swiftly makes a successful matching pair on her first attempt. It dawns on Itsuki that Yumiko has uncovered her cheating method and now threatens to expose her company's involvement in producing cheating cards. The potential legal complications and damage to her family's reputation terrify Itsuki. In disbelief, Itsuki watches as Yumiko continues to flip cards and effortlessly makes matches. She keeps doing this until she gets 54 cards, claiming her victory. After winning, Yumiko is overwhelmed with happiness, feeling like she's on the verge of exploding. Her daring and insanity push her to propose another match to Itsuki. For the next match, she suggests Itsuki bet her own nails, a proposition that terrifies Itsuki deeply. As Yumiko speaks, a red light seems to emanate from her eyes, hinting at a depth to her character beyond what meets the eye. It leaves Itsuki shaken to the core. Later, she faces severe backlash from the student council for losing to Yumiko. Her defeat brings disgrace to the council, resulting in her being stripped of her membership rights. Itsuki attempts to persuade them with a large donation, but the council members dismiss her, ending the conversation by subduing her with a taser. The next day, Yumiko asks Ryota to show her around the school. While on the tour, Ryota mentions the Traditional Culture Research Club, which is actually a gambling den in disguise. He tries to discourage Yumiko from going there, but she can't contain her excitement upon learning about this new gambling opportunity. As she stands outside, a member of the club invites her to observe an official match that is currently underway. Yumiko eagerly agrees to watch the match. As they make their way inside, Ryota explains to Yumiko the concept of an official match. House pets like doggies and kitties are allowed to challenge anyone, especially the council members, in these matches where there are no betting limits. Many pets see these matches as their final desperate attempt to turn their fortunes around. The current official match features Yuriko Nishinatoin, a student council member, against Miri. This is Miri's last chance to earn enough money to pay off her debt and free herself from being a house pet. The game they are playing is high stakes called Life or Death. In this game, both players decide how many chips they will bet. Then, a cup containing 10 sword-shaped game pieces is placed on the board. The board itself has 30 numbered holes. The players must predict into which holes the swords will fall and place their bets accordingly. After the cup is placed, players have 10 seconds to select which numbers to bet on. The goal is to predict more accurately than their opponent which numbered holes the swords will enter. However, this game has an intriguing twist. If the sword lands pointing upward, it signifies life, and the winner receives 30 times their initial bet. If the sword lands pointing downward, it signifies death, and the player loses 30 times their bet, with their opponent gaining 30 times the chips that were at stake. Chips placed on the numbers that signify life are returned to the winner along with their winnings. Chips placed on the numbers signifying death, as well as any missed bets, go to the opponent. If both players fail to predict correctly, neither earns any chips. Once one player's total drops below zero, the final amount owed is calculated based on the difference in totals. The game begins as the dealer places the cup filled with swords on the board. Miri and Yuriko swiftly place their bets on the numbers they believe will hold the sword within the 10-second window. Once the dealer lifts the cup, it's revealed that the number where Miri placed her bet has a sword pointing downward, signifying death. Miri had wagered 6 chips on that number, resulting in a loss of 180 chips, which is 30 times her bet. After accounting for the missed bets, Miri's total chip count drops to -148. While Yuriko's rises to 348. This results in a final tally of 49.6 million yen owed by Miri. She had challenged Yuriko in hopes of eliminating her 10 million yen debt, but instead, she finds herself deep in a debt she can never repay. Yuriko smiles contentedly with her eyes closed while Miri looks on in disbelief, utterly speechless and devastated by the unexpected turn of events. Yuriko then challenges Yumiko to a match, which Yumiko eagerly accepts. Yumiko bets 40 million yen for the game, prompting Yuriko to suggest using 1 million yen chips for such high stakes. The game commences as the dealer places the cup filled with swords onto the board. Instead of hastily placing her chips on the numbers, Yumiko pauses to strategize. She observes that the cup is slightly wider at the rim, indicating a higher probability of swords landing on the smaller numbers in the center of the board. Based on this observation, she decides to bet on those central numbers. However, when the dealer lifts the cup, the swords are revealed to be in the outer holes, not where Yumiko had placed her chips. This time, Yumiko's guess turned out to be incorrect, but fortunately for her, Yuriko also didn't bet on the correct numbers. Despite Yumiko's incorrect guess, she doesn't lose any chips since neither player predicted the right outcome. After the round concludes, Ryota advises Yumiko to consider leaving the game. However, Yuriko asserts that neither player can leave until one of their chip totals drops below zero. Yumiko then openly criticizes Yuriko, condemning her as a cheater and expressing disappointment that she resorts to such deceitful tactics. She calls out to Yumiko for challenging the already desperate Mary. She wanted to see Mary lose so she could enjoy her helplessness and desperate state. As Yumiko continues to humiliate Yuriko, the club members surround her, waiting for their leader's signal to kick her out. Yuriko stays calm and decides to get revenge on Yumiko by decisively defeating her in the game. The game begins, and the dealer places the cup on the board. Yuriko quickly places her chips on her chosen numbers, but Yumiko hesitates. With only 1 second left, Yumiko shocks everyone by betting all 40 chips on number 24. This move reveals Yumiko's belief that Yuriko has been cheating in the game. The dealer's right hand has piercings on the back, and Yumiko suspects Yuriko forced every club member to get piercings so she could cheat against her opponents. According to Yumiko's assessment, one of the swords has a magnet embedded in it. With the magnetic piercing on the back of her hand, the dealer can catch the sword from falling. After flipping the cup, she can discreetly drop the sword near the number she wants by sliding her hand along the side of the cup. As Yumiko explains the trick, Yuriko sits before her, stunned and unable to believe what she's hearing. It's then that Yumiko reveals that if her theory is correct, Yuriko owes her 2.17 billion yen. Hearing this, Yuriko panics because she doesn't have that much money. Even if she borrows from others, she won't have enough for the student council donations, which will put her position at risk. Faced with a grim future, she decides to strike a deal with Yumiko. However, before she can do so, the vice president of the student council and the president's secretary enter the room and firmly state that there will be no negotiations. Before leaving, the vice president reassures Yuriko that everything will be okay and instructs the dealer to lift the cup. Following the instructions, the dealer lifts the cup and announces the results: death on 10 and life on 7. To Yuriko's surprise, nothing landed on 24 as she had planned. While Yumiko is disappointed with the outcome, Yuriko can't contain her joy because the number 7 she randomly chose has a life sword. Since Yuriko bet 5 chips on number 7, her total reaches 195 chips, while Yumiko's total is minus 115, meaning she owes a total of 310 million yen to Yuriko. Yumiko was convinced that Yuriko received help from her student council allies, but the vice president remains silent, tossing the kitty necklace to Yumiko as a sign that she is now considered a house pet. As Yumiko leaves the building, she visits the room directly beneath the room where the game was played. There, she explains to Ryota about the badger trick used in dice games long ago. They would create a small hole in the floor and cover it with a cloth to conceal it. An accomplice hidden underneath the cloth would observe the dice numbers and manipulate them with a needle to achieve the desired outcome, according to their partner's instructions. Now, Yumiko suspects that the student council used the same trick to assist Yuriko. She believes they employed a magnet to influence the sword landing on number 24 to fly off course. Yumiko isn't certain whether the president created a hole in the ceiling or had already prepared the space for such purposes, but she knows something was done to alter the outcome in favor of Yuriko's chosen number. Instead of becoming angry with the student council and the president, Yumiko feels excited and even more thrilled. Impressed by the president's cunning and skill, she decides to challenge her to a match. Later, when Yumiko returns to her class, she finds her desk littered with trash. The girls who once admired her for her beauty and intelligence now view her as nothing more than a kitty of the student council. They mock and belittle her, but Yumiko remains composed. She sits on the floor, behaving like a crazed kitty, which frightens the girls. Meanwhile, the president's secretary, Sayaka, and a member of the student council, Keed, discuss the recent match. It is revealed that the student council indeed assisted Yuriko in winning the game. Keed is furious with his fellow council members for losing to a newcomer like Yumiko. Another council member, Midori, suggests to Keed that if he is so angry, he should challenge Yumiko himself. When Keed refuses to challenge Yumiko, Midori volunteers to take on the Yumiko herself. There's something unsettling about Midori. She holds a revolver, wears an eye patch, and lives in a room resembling a jail. Sayaka rejects Midori's request, likely aware of her unpredictable nature. Upon hearing the refusal, Midori impulsively pulls the trigger of her revolver, causing distress to Sayaka. Fortunately, the cylinder turns out to be empty, saving Sayaka from harm. On the other hand, Yumiko gets bullied by a student named Jun. He instructs her to strip off her clothes, but Yumiko refuses, saying that he is not her type. Before Jun can harm her for disobedience, Ryota arrives there screaming at the top of his lungs that the vice president is coming this way. His strategy to help Yumiko works as Jun leaves the area with his friend in fear of the vice president. After the bullies leave, Ryota gives Yumiko some money so she can use it to gamble and earn her way out of the pet house. Yumiko refuses to accept the money, saying that she has gotten something else from the student council, which is a way to pay off her debt. It turns out that the student council has given her a life plan, and they have mentioned whom Yumiko will date, when she will get married, and when she will have her first baby. Instead of becoming angry at the student council for controlling her life, Yumiko feels ecstatic by the intriguing turn of events. The next day, the student council announces a debt settlement assembly for those who wish to eliminate their status as doggies and kitties. Ryota informs Mary and Yumiko about this opportunity and encourages them to take advantage of it to pay off their debts. Later that day, many students attend the debt settlement assembly, where Sayaka explains the game they will be playing, the debt swap game. Each group will consist of 4 players. The debts of the 4 players will be swapped based on their rankings. The person in first place will receive the debt of the person with the least amount of debt. Although it may seem there is no benefit for the person with the least debt, that's not the case. If this person wins the game, their debt will be completely paid off. The game they will be playing is 2-card Indian poker. This game uses a standard deck of cards with the face cards removed. First, the dealer deals 1 card to each of the 4 players. A player can check this card without showing it to the others. Then, the dealer deals a second card, which the players must hold to their foreheads without checking. The other 3 players can see this card. Each hand consists of 1 private card and 1 public card. The strongest hand is a pair, followed by a suit match, and the weakest is a junk hand with no matching number or suit. If 2 hands are of the same type, the hand with the higher total wins. Each player will have 10 chips of a particular color, and the value of each chip is a tenth of that player's reported debt amount. For example, if a player's debt is 100 million yen, each chip would be worth 10 million yen. In Mary's case, each of her chips would be worth 5 million yen, while Yumiko's chips would be worth 31 million yen. Before the game begins, the players will complete a debt settlement declaration, writing down the name of their creditor and the amount of their debt. The student council will then pay their creditors the reported amount on their behalf. After submitting the declaration, the players will receive a board displaying the value of their chips. They must display this board during the game. The student council will not provide any assistance or advice, including in cases of cheating. After listening to the instructions, Mary hopes she isn't paired with Yumiko. To her frustration, Sayaka pairs her with Yumiko, whom she despises after losing a gambling match to her. Unlike Mary, Yumiko is thrilled to have Mary as her partner. Soon, Yumiko and Mary join another team in the conference hall. The opposing team consists of the bully, Jun, and his house pet, Nanami. True to his nature, Jun starts bullying all the house pets in the room, calling them animals. He insists that they are stinky kitties and should be treated as such. Although Jun is not a house pet, he is playing this game because he has foreign debts to pay. Confident in his skills, he sees this as a great opportunity to make more money. Mary struggles to contain her anger at the constant humiliation, but Yumiko calms her down. Meanwhile, Ryota watches the game on the LCD and contemplates the high stakes involved. Yumiko's chips are worth 31 million yen each, Mary's 5 million, Nanami's 2 million, and Jun's 1 million. The game consists of 10 turns. At the beginning of each turn, players must bet one of their own chips. The maximum number of chips that can be bet in a turn is 5. The player with the highest total chip value at the end wins. The first turn begins, and all the players bet 1 chip. The dealer, Sayaka, deals the cards, and the betting continues. Despite knowing the high value of her chips, Yumiko bets another one instead of folding. Confident in his skills, Jun is pleased that Yumiko has chosen to raise. He believes that if he wins this round, he will gain 2 of Yumiko's 31 million yen chips, making it easier for him to win the entire game. After the betting round is complete, the players reveal their second cards. Jun, with the best poker hand, wins the turn, collecting all the chips, including 62 million yen worth of Yumiko's chips. The second turn begins, and Jun raises the bet with 4 of his chips. He wins the round again. Ryota grows increasingly frustrated with Jun's inhumane remarks towards his opponents. The third turn begins, and Yumiko bets her chip, declaring that she has good cards this time. In response, Jun raises with 2 of his chips while Nanami and Mary choose to fold. Yumiko surprises everyone by raising the bet with 3 of her 31 million yen chips. After the betting is done, the players check their cards. Luckily, Yumiko has a suit match. With the highest hand, she wins the turn. The fourth turn begins with Mary raising the bet with 4 of her chips. Suspicious, Jun accuses her and Yumiko of conspiring, recalling how Yumiko claimed to have good cards earlier. Since Yumiko had only seen one of her cards, Jun suspects she received help to know about her second card. He believes Yumiko bet her chips because she knew she had a good hand. Now, Jun thinks Mary is doing the same. Convinced that Mary has a strong hand, Jun decides to fold, hoping to limit her chip gain. With everyone folding to her raise, Mary wins the pot regardless of her hand's strength. After her victory is announced, she reveals her hand, which turns out to be a junk hand. Mary celebrates her success while Jun struggles to control his anger at being bluffed. The fifth turn begins with Jun betting one of his chips. Nanami tries to call his bet, but Jun, panicking, signals her to fold. Yumiko then raises the bet with 4 of Jun's chips, making him think she has a strong hand. However, he is unsure if she is bluffing like Mary did before. Confused, he decides to call her raise. Yumiko then reveals her suit match hand, winning the turn. Turn 6 begins, and Mary once again confuses Jun by betting 3 of his chips. He looks at Nanami's cards and decides to fold. Mary wins the turn again, and once more, she pulls it off with a junk hand thanks to her bluffing skills. After the 6th turn, Mary and Yumiko reveal how Jun has been cheating in the game. They have figured out that Nanami has been positioning her cards to signal Jun about the suit. Nanami panics once the truth is out, as she was forced by Jun to do so. Meanwhile, Jun cannot control his anger after his cheating is exposed. Instead of reporting it to the dealer, Yumiko teaches Nanami a better way to cheat, using her partner's hand under the table to draw the card. Since Yumiko chooses not to call out her opponents for cheating, Jun and Nanami are allowed to continue the game. The 7th round begins, and since everyone knows what their hidden card is, the game has turned into a pure bluffing battle. Yumiko bets with one of Jun's chips, and Mary follows with the same bet. In this turn, Nanami wins, but Yumiko and Mary see through her bluff and avoid giving away more of their chips. After the 7th turn, Yumiko has 148 million yen, Jun is in 2nd place with 103 million, Mary is in 3rd, and Nanami is last. Jun took a debt to play in this game, and if he loses, he will end up with a debt of over 10 million yen. The 8th turn begins, and Mary bets a Jun chip. Jun calls her raise with a Mary chip, making Mary realize that he doesn't have a strong hand. If he did, he would have bet his Yumiko chip worth 31 million yen. Thanks to her critical thinking, Mary wins the turn again. Only 2 turns are left, and if the rankings stay the way they are now, Jun will end up with a debt of 50 million yen. Fearing becoming a house pet, Jun pressures Nanami to bet her Yumiko chip in the next turn. He's confident he'll win, which would improve his position by gaining Yumiko's chip. Nanami follows his instructions, and Jun wins the turn with a strong hand, acquiring the Yumiko chip he wanted. Ryota collapses to the floor in distress, experiencing a breakdown. After winning the 9th turn, Jun now holds 5 Yumiko chips, totaling 155 million yen. Jun once again boasts and humiliates his opponents, but he's puzzled by their calm demeanor. It dawns on him that Yumiko and Mary can easily take first place by betting on the better hand. Yumiko can bet her chip and let Mary win, or vice versa. As the 10th turn begins, Jun discovers that Nanami indeed has a very strong hand. He breathes a sigh of relief. Nanami's victory is assured, yet even with her total chips, she won't surpass Jun for first place. To Jun's astonishment, Yumiko and Mary bet their 31 million yen worth of Yumiko chips on Nanami's victory. With a total of 5 Yumiko chips in the bet, the winner will receive 172 million yen. This means Nanami, with her strong hand, will surpass Jun and take first place. Left with no other choice, Jun threatens Nanami to fold. However, Yumiko steps in and advocates for Nanami, encouraging her to seek revenge against Jun for all the mistreatment she endured. Yumiko's words resonate with Nanami, reminding her of how Jun had mistreated her, including cutting her hair and subjecting her to various forms of torture. Nanami finally changes her decision and calls Mary's raise. In a fit of rage, Jun attempts to attack Nanami, but Sayaka intervenes, reminding him that violence is prohibited. After the betting concludes, Nanami wins the pot with a strong hand. Sayaka then announces the final results. Mary takes first place with 165 million yen, Nanami secures 2nd place, Yumiko finishes 3rd, and Jun ends up in 4th place with 53 million yen. The result turns out to be a shock for Jun, who demands an explanation, citing his possession of 5 Yumiko chips worth a total of 115 million yen. Yumiko and Mary laugh at Jun's confusion for a moment before revealing their deception. They explain how they cheated to secure their victory in the game. It turns out that they had swapped the values of their chips beforehand. So, 1 Yumiko chip is actually worth 5 million yen, and 1 Mary chip is worth 31 million yen. Taking advantage of the rule that cheaters wouldn't be punished, they had started cheating even before the game began. They falsified their debt settlement declarations. Mary claimed a debt of 310 million yen, which was Yumiko's actual debt, while Yumiko claimed a debt of 50 million yen, which was Mary's debt. Additionally, they switched their boards, ensuring Jun couldn't correctly determine the value of their chips. Sakaya calculated the values based on the information from the debt settlement, considering that Mary's chips were worth more than Yumiko's. This revelation means the chips Jun thought were worth 31 million yen each, which he had fought hard to acquire, are actually valued at 5 million yen each. Upon realizing this, Jun loudly protests that what his opponents did was against the rules. Sakaya clarifies that there was no rule requiring players to keep their own board in front of them. She declares Mary as the winner, further infuriating Jun. He attempts to attack Mary, but Sayaka intervenes swiftly, subduing him with a taser. With Jun now in debt totaling 310 million yen, he is relegated to the status of a doggy until he can repay his debt. After Mary reported being indebted to Ryota, The student council took over her debt and settled it, paying him back. Despite clearing her 50 million yen debt, Miri still has a significant sum from the 310 million yen she received from the student council. Yumiko, on the other hand, maintains her 310 million yen debt but decides not to accept money from Miri. She remains indebted and has not abandoned her life plan. This revelation sparks the realization among everyone that Yumiko was contemplating an official match against the president of the student council. Upon hearing this plan from Keed, Midori bursts out of her cell-like room and asserts her claim over the president, declaring that the president belongs to her alone and no one else can challenge her. With that declaration, she returns to her room to devise a strategy to thwart Yumiko's plans. Amidst the chaos and disorder in the student council, the president remains absent, providing Keed an opportunity to seize control of her seat. He thinks that ever since Yumiko joined the school, the student council fell into disorder. He perceives the president as lacking direction, believing it falls upon him to save the council by removing Yumiko and claiming the president's position. Aware of Midori's intense desire to confront Yumiko, Keed manipulates Midori to serve his own agenda. Midori is fueled by her personal vendetta against the president who took her left eye. As head of the beautification committee, Midori mobilizes her minions to apprehend Yumiko and bring her in handcuffs. Upon learning of Keed's permission for Midori to challenge Yumiko, Sakaya becomes upset. Meanwhile, amidst the ongoing turmoil, the president is nowhere to be seen. When Ryota tries to intervene, Midori's sidekicks knock him down and escort him and Yumiko to a dilapidated storage room. There, Midori confronts Yumiko and explains that she intends to confine and discipline her for daring to challenge the president to an official match. Midori then proposes a gamble. Yumiko must first face her in a match before challenging the president. Unsurprisingly, Yumiko accepts the challenge without hesitation. They will be playing an ESP game. The setup involves two rooms, the playing room and a monitoring room connected only by cameras and monitors. Here's how the game works. First, the dealer arranges a set of cards in an order they prefer. Then, each player independently arranges their own set of cards in the same order as the dealers, to the best of their ability. Afterwards, all two participants simultaneously reveal their card arrangements. The player who matches the dealer's order the most accurately wins the round. The difference in the number of correctly ordered cards determines the points each player earns. The winner of the game earns the opportunity to pull the trigger once for each point they have won. After the dealer arranges the cards, each player takes a gun, loads it with as many bullets as they choose, and spins the cylinder. Once the cards are revealed, the winner has the privilege of selecting a gun from the box and pointing it at the loser, pulling the trigger for each point they earned. Initially, Ryota assumes the guns are air guns, but Midori dispels this notion by firing at him. The bullet narrowly misses, embedding itself in the wall and startling Ryota profoundly. Yumiko agrees to accept Midori's challenge under three conditions. First, Ryota will act as the dealer. Second, the loser must pay the winner 1 billion yen. Third, they will play a maximum of 3 rounds. Midori agrees to the first two conditions set by Yumiko. However, she adds a new rule to ensure someone gets hurt. If a player misses a shot, their opponent gets to shoot back. Yumiko agrees to these additional rules, and the game commences. Before Ryota is taken to the monitoring room, Yumiko grasps his hands and cryptically mentions using a hand signal to ensure victory. Ryota feigns understanding, but once he's alone in the monitoring room, he breaks down in confusion. He realizes he has no clue about Yumiko's supposed hand signal strategy. After carefully considering Yumiko's strategy, Ryota realizes that she intends to deceive Midori into not loading any bullets. Yumiko mentioned the hand signal only to make Midori believe they had a winning strategy. If Midori anticipates losing, she would hesitate to load her gun. As the game begins, Ryota randomly signals Yumiko merely to mislead Midori. He proceeds to lay out the cards, allowing the players to arrange theirs accordingly. Once the dealer's cards are revealed, each player flips their own cards in turn. In the first round, Midori correctly matches 3 cards with the dealer's order, while Yumiko matches 2. The difference in their correct guesses gives Midori 1 point, entitling her to one shot at Yumiko. Midori reaches for the box and retrieves a gun, uncertain of whether it's loaded or not. To Ryota's dismay, she reveals that she has loaded all 6 bullets into the cylinder. This means that if she retrieves her own gun, Yumiko will certainly be injured. As she aims the revolver at Yumiko, Yumiko warns her not to pull the trigger because the gun in her hand is not hers. Yumiko had marked her gun with lipstick on the muzzle. She then reveals that she has loaded 3 bullets into her own gun and packed the barrel with lipstick. She explains that firing the gun would cause high-pressure gas from the gunpowder to build up, potentially causing the barrel to explode. Despite Yumiko's warning, Midori pulls the trigger, demonstrating her disregard for her own safety in gambling. This is when Yumiko reveals that the barrel wouldn't actually explode from the lipstick inside and that she has lied. Midori begins recounting the extreme lengths she went to in her gambling ventures, including losing her left eye to the president over a debt of 300 million yen. The most disturbing thing about Midori is that she impaled her own eye. For Midori, gambling is all about embracing risks and seeking thrill without any fear of consequences. She's willing to endure pain or inflict it on others as long as it heightens the excitement of gambling for her. Despite discovering these unsettling truths about Midori, Yumiko warns her, predicting that the game will definitely end in a draw. Midori becomes enraged because she wants Yumiko to experience the same fear she once did. However, Yumiko calmly responds that she trusts Ryota completely and isn't afraid at all. This answer leaves Ryota feeling helpless and frustrated, unsure of how to support Yumiko. The second round begins, and Yumiko correctly identifies all 5 cards. Since Midori has guessed 3 cards right, Yumiko has to shoot at her twice. Midori laughs hysterically and prepares to be shot. Yumiko pulls the trigger, and Midori convincingly acts as though she's been shot, frightening Ryota immensely. In reality, the revolver was empty. It was Yumiko's revolver all along. Yumiko had carefully chosen the lighter gun, believing it wouldn't have the weight of 6 bullets that Midori had loaded. This clever strategy allowed Yumiko to avoid shooting Midori altogether. Before the third round begins, Ryota notices something odd on the screen, revealing that Midori is cheating. He tries desperately to alert Yumiko to the truth but is halted by Midori's sidekicks. Additionally, Midori threatens him to arrange the cards under threat of shooting Yumiko. Left with no choice, Ryota complies, but he decides to keep the card arrangement the same as the previous rounds. When Ryota flips over all the cards, Yumiko immediately accuses Midori of cheating. She had sensed something was off about the way Ryota had aligned his cards in the first 2 rounds. He had used his left hand despite being right-handed. Furthermore, the wave card, which was the only one with an asymmetrical design, appeared different. In other videos, the waves faced the opposite direction compared to this third set. This inconsistency led her to realize that they had been watching a horizontally flipped mirror image video. However, this time, Yumiko noticed Ryota using his right hand, indicating that the video wasn't flipped for the third set. Therefore, the order of the cards shown wasn't reversed this time. Yumiko saw through Midori's trick and arranged her cards accordingly to ensure her victory. Initially nervous, Midori eventually reveals her cards, which don't match a single one of the dealers. Now, since Yumiko got all correctly, she must shoot Midori 5 times. The guns have either 1 or 2 bullets, so it's certain Midori will be hit at least once. This complicates things for Yumiko, who had hoped to end the game without hurting anyone. Unexpectedly, Yumiko reveals her own cards. To Midori's surprise, neither of them matches the dealer's arrangement. Yumiko knew all along that Midori never intended to win. All Midori wanted was for Yumiko to shoot her. Realizing this, Yumiko loaded the revolver with 2 bullets to trick Midori into arranging her cards incorrectly. Midori would do this to intentionally lose and provoke Yumiko into shooting her. However, Yumiko saw through her plan and turned the situation around by ending the match in a draw. As Yumiko prepares to leave, Midori kneels down and desperately begs her to pull the trigger. Yumiko, with a stern expression, replies that she detests people like Midori the most. She then departs the room, leaving Midori distressed. Meanwhile, Keat offers Miri a position on the student council. Initially appearing interested, Miri suddenly grabs Keat by the collar and rejects his offer. Her anger towards the student council stems from their attempts to control her life and force her into a marriage with someone much older than her.